Hello everyone. In this lecture, we will prove some of the properties of Riemann integration. Before proving properties, let me recall what we have done in the last lecture. So if you remember, in last lecture, I have given you an example of a function which is not R integrable. So the function was defined from closed interval 0, comma 1 to R such that the function was f of x is equal to 1 if x belongs to a rational intersection close interval 0 comma 1. So all rational intersect between 0 comma 1, all rational goes to 1, and it is minus 1 for all x belongs to if you subtract all rationals from close interval 0 comma 1. So basically all irrational numbers between 0 to 1. We have shown that this is not R integrable. So we have seen that f is not R integrable. The reason is because UF was turned out to be plus 1 and LF was minus 1. UF not equal to LF implies the function is not R integrable. So this is going to be very important function. So maybe even this minus 1, if I replace with any number apart from 1, then also it is not going to be R integrable. So this 1 and minus 1, you can have any two different number, then straight away it is not going to be R integrable. And a density theorem plays a very crucial role to prove this. What is density theorem? It says that between any two rational number, there are infinitely many rational as well as infinitely many irrational. Well, so I want to state one small remark over here. The remark is as follows. Every R integrable function every R integrable function is bounded. Well, when we say a function is bounded, when function has upper bound as well as lower bound, implies that function is bounded. Now, is this true? Yes, you can see, because if the function is R integrable, then it is definitely going to be bounded. Because if it is R integrable, that means UF, LF exist and they are equal. And when UF exists, when UPF exists. When UPF exists, UF is basically a infimum of all UPF. And to find out UPF, we need to have a capital MI, that supremum value. And supremum is one of the upper bound. Similarly, to LF, you will get small mi, which is lower bound. So function has some upper bound as well as lower bound implies that it is bounded. But the converse of this theorem or this statement is not true. But converse is not true. Converse is not true means I need to give an example of a function which is bounded but not R integrable. That is, if f is bounded, that doesn't imply अगर function bounded है तो we cannot say straight away that f is R integrable. That is not true. See, bounded अगर वो R means we cannot say straight it is going to be R integrable. And we can give a counter example. So what is a counter example? Well, you can see that so far we have seen only one example of not R integrable function. So this is a counter example because this function is bounded because its upper bound is 1 and lower bound is minus 1. But this function is not R integrable. Check the previous example. So let me write down the previous example. Previous problem. So many a times in people do ask that is every R integrable function bounded? Yes. Answer to this, yes, it is bounded. But the converse part, if function is bounded, can we say it is R integrable? Yes, no, that is not possible, right? So now let me prove a nice theorem of R integrability. The theorem gives a basically a bound of integration. So what is the theorem? So let f is from closed interval a comma b to R be Riemann integrable, be R integrable function, R integrable, such that small fx lies between small m to capital M for all x belongs to closed interval a comma b, and small m comma capital F belongs to R. Then prove that m times b minus a is less than equal to integral a to b f of x dx less than equal to capital M times b minus a. So theorem says that the integral value has a bound, that is m times b minus a and capital M times b minus a. Right. So the theorem is not difficult. Well, this line is very important. This means that when I have written this, this only says that fx has capital M as a upper bound and small m as a lower bound, because this is true for any x comma y, any x belongs to closed interval a comma b. So that implies that f is has a upper bound as capital M and lower bound as small m. So this will gonna play a very important role. So let's prove the result. Proof. Let p equal to x naught, which is a comma x1 comma x2 comma dot 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 xn equal to b, be any partition of close interval a comma b. Now define my capital Mi and small mi. Capital Mi is supremum of fx such that x belongs to xi minus 1 comma xi, and small mi is infimum of my fx such that x belongs to xi minus 1 comma xi, right? So next, over any rectangle over any xi minus 1 comma xi, my f of x is always going to be less than equal to capital Mi, because capital Mi is a supremum, right? So of course this is true for all I goes from 1 to n. So Mi is a supremum over here. Also, from the given fact, it is given that fx is less than equal to m, from given. So then what is the relation between capital Mi and small m? Now you could see that capital Mi is uh, a supremum and it is a upper bound. In fact, it is a least upper bound. Similarly, capital M is also upper bound. So F has a two upper bound. One is capital Mi and another one is capital M only. Now, what is the relation between these two upper bound? This is also upper bound. This is also upper bound. But this Mi is a special upper bound. It is least upper bound. Among all the upper bound, it is the smallest upper bound. So I have two upper bound, one is M and another one is Mi. But among that, Mi is definitely less than equal to M, because it is least upper bound. So let me call this as 1, which is also less than equal to Fx. we can say. Similarly, my fx is always less than equal to small mi, and m is also less than equal to fx over any subrectangle subinterval xi minus 1 comma xi. Now this is lower bound, this is also a lower bound. So both are the lower bound, but this is the greatest lower bound. So I have a two lower bound of f, but mi is a greatest lower bound. So this would imply my mi is definitely greater than equal to m, and which is greater than equal to fx. So let me call this as 2. So if I club 1 and 2, what I will get, see. So fx mi, so from 1 and 2, I will get small m less than equal to small mi less than equal to fx less than equal to capital Mi less than equal to capital M. Yeah, this is right. Okay. Now what I'll do, I'll multiply this inequality by xi minus xi minus. So what I'll get, m times xi minus 1 less than equal to, what is it next? Small mi. Small mi xi minus 1, which is less than equal to f of x. So maybe I will drop this f of x now. I don't need that asset. So that which is less than equal to, what is it? Capital Mi xi minus 1, which is further less than equal to capital M xi minus 1. See, I don't have a space, hence I could not continue in a one line. But I will suggest you all students, please write down this full inequality in one line only. Now here I have taken a 3 lines, but I will suggest you please write it one line only. Then take summation or add n equalities, then what I'll get is as follows. So this, when I take sigma, so m is constant, so I will come outside. So I goes from 1 to n. It is xi minus 1, which is less than equal to summation I goes from 1 to n small mi xi minus again xi minus 1 less than equal to summation I goes from 1 to n capital Mi xi minus 1, and again less than equal to, now this m will be outside since it is independent of x, so I goes from 1 to n xi minus 1. You know, this and this is a telescopic sum, and it will give you the only last and first term. So that would imply m times, if you expand this, you'll get x1 minus x2, x1 minus x0 plus x2 minus x1, so on and so forth. So the first and last term will survive. So it is xn minus x0. One can verify that by expanding this, and this is basically my LPF, which is less than equal to LPF. This is UPF less than equal to UPF less than equal to, this is my capital M, and that is again xn minus x0. But xn is B and x0 is A. So if I take that, if I could write that, then that would imply m times B minus A less than equal to LPF less than equal to UPF less than equal to capital M times B minus A. Now what my theorem part is, what I need to prove. I need to prove that my integral value is lying between m times v minus a and m times v minus a, capital M. Now you could see that I have done almost all part. Now if I could show that integral value lies between LPF and UPF, then my task is done, because the corner bound I have received. Now I need to show that the integration lies between LPF and UPF. That part I need to do. So let me do that. That's not difficult for me. So my LF, if you know, our LF is nothing but supremum of all LPF such that P is any partition of closed interval a comma b. Right. So there is a relation between LF and LPF. Since LF is a supremum, so it is one of the upper bound. So it is going to be LF is greater than equal to LPF. Similarly, UF is infimum of all UPF such that P is any partition of closed interval a comma b. So I am not writing that. So UF is a infimum, means it's a lower bound. So UF is definitely less than equal to UPF. Right? But you know that UF and LF are same, because in a question it is given that F is R integrable. But F is R integrable. So this would imply LF is same as UF. But I know about UF. UPF is greater than UF, which is less than equal to UPF, and LF is larger than LPF. So here I can say LPF. So you can see that between LPF and UPF, UF and LF is same, and in fact that value is basically integral a to b f, because f is R integrable. So let me have which number I have given, last number. I think I have given, no, the last number 1 2. So let me number this as some 3, and if I number this as 3, then this forces to be 4. So from 3 and 4, what I will get is as follows: m times b minus a less than equal to integral a to b f dx, which is less than equal to capital M times b minus a, right? Because where is 3? From 3 and 4, let me check what is my 3. Yeah, between UPF and LPF I have shown that the integral value is exist. So you must have realized that this result is really not difficult. One just need to have the thorough knowledge about the infimum and supremum, and then it won't be difficult. Now let me prove properties of Riemann, one more properties of Riemann integration, or maybe there are some standard properties of Riemann integration which I will going to prove. So let me give the heading properties of Riemann integrable function. So number one property. So if f of x and g of x are integrable on closed interval a comma b. So what does this mean? F is a function from closed interval a comma b to r, and similarly g is a function from closed interval a comma b to r, and they are r integrable. Then prove that f plus g of x is r integrable. Further, integral a to b f plus g of x dx is same as integral a to b f of x dx plus integral a to b g of x dx. So this is basically algebra of a Riemann integrable function. So if two functions are R integrable, then their addition is also R integrable. That is what we have to prove. Further, the integration distributes over the addition. That also we need to prove. So, proof. So it's given that f and g are integrable on closed interval a comma b. So f and g are, when it is R integrable, then definitely they will satisfy the Riemann criteria. So this would imply f and g satisfies Riemann criteria. So what is Riemann criteria? So that is for every epsilon greater than 0, there exist partitions. Now since I have a two function, so let me say p1 and p2. Partitions p1 and p2 of close interval a comma b such that, let me write down in the next page, u p1f minus l p1f is less than epsilon, and u p2f g minus l p2g is less than epsilon, right? Let me call this both the equation as one. This is the Riemann criteria. So we have applied on f as well as on g. Now you can see that I want a common partition which should work for f as well as g. So let me take a refinement. So let p is equal to p1 union p2. Right. So what does this mean? P is a refinement of p1 and p2. P is refinement for p1 as well as p2. And we know that refining a partition decreases the upper sum and increases the lower sum. So that would imply UPF is less than equal to UP1F and LPF is greater than equal to LP1F. Right? So if I subtract these two equations inequality, then I will have UPF minus LPF is less than equal to UP1F minus LP2F. P1F which is less than epsilon. So what I have shown is as follows. I have shown that UPF minus LPF is less than epsilon. Right. So let me call it as number 2. Now this is true for the F. On same line you can prove for the G also. How does so? Similarly, one can show that UPG minus LPG is less than epsilon. Right? This both equations we will inequality we will call it as G. Now when I said similarly, I will suggest you all please write down this explanation. How you will write down the explanation? You will say same thing. यही जो लिखा है मैं जो अंडरलाइन कर रहा हूँ वो सेम लिखना है, सिर्फ F के जगह पे G आएगा और P1 के जगह पे P2 आएगा. So you will say that UPG is less than equal to UP2G and LPG is greater than equal to LP2G. Then subtraction करेंगे तो UPG minus LPG less than equal to UP2G minus LP2G. But by previous equation UP2G minus LP2G is less than epsilon, so that epsilon you will add here, so you will get UPG minus LPG is less than epsilon. So that should be cleared very clearly. So I don't feel that there is any problem. Now let capital P, which is equal to x naught, which is a comma x1 comma x2 comma xn is equal to b, be a partition of close interval a comma b. Let mi dash is supremum of fx such that x belongs to xi minus 1 comma xi. Capital mi double dash is equal to supremum of gx such that x belongs to xi minus 1 comma xi, and capital Mi is equal to supremum of f of x plus g of x such that x belongs to xi minus 1 comma xi. Right. So now you can see that I wanted to have a relation between capital Mi dash and capital Mi double dash. So let me write down this clearly. So capital Mi is less than equal to capital Mi dash plus capital Mi double dash. So one need to visualize that in a proper way. If you do not understand, please feel free to ask in a class. So I got this. So what I will do, I will multiply this by first xi minus 1, and then I will take the summation and all solve it. So this would imply now multiply by some xi minus 1 capital Mi, which is less than equal to capital Mi dash xi minus 1 plus capital Mi double dash xi minus 1, and now taking summation on or adding n inequalities, what I will get xi minus 1 is less than equal to where I run from 1 to n. Now here again summation I run from 1 to n capital Mi dash xi minus 1 plus summation I goes from 1 to n capital Mi double dash xi minus 1. Now this would imply, now you could see that Mi is a supremum of f plus g. So this is upper sum of f plus g. So u p comma f plus g, because this xi are point from the p. Similarly, this is less than equal to that capital Mi dash is a supremum of f. So it is u p f plus u p g. Okay, good. So let me number it as this has 3. Now similarly, I can define small mi dash small mi double dash small mi. So small mi dash is infimum of fx such that x belongs to xi minus 1 comma xi. Small mi dash is infimum of gx such that the everything remains same. And this is infimum of fx plus gx such that x belongs to closed interval xi minus 1 comma xi. Now again here clearly there is a nice relation between these three. So now in this case my mi will be definitely greater than equal to small mi dash plus small mi double dash. Right. Then again now I will multiply xi minus 1. Then I will take the summation. And then you will realize that this will becomes that mi is a infimum of f plus g. So this will be L p comma f plus g. This will be L p comma f, and this will be L p comma g. So now I am not writing the in between line. So we will get what we will get is as follows: L p comma f plus g is greater than equal to LPF minus plus LPG. This is number 4. So let me check what is 3 I have. 3 I have noted. UPF plus G is less than equal to this, and this is LP. So let me have 3 minus 4. So 3 minus 4 will gives. So what it will gives? So 3 में क्या है? UPF plus G. UPF plus G minus. So minus means first I have to subtract this. So when I first I have to multiply this. So multiply करेंगे तो इधर minus आएगा and this greater than equal to less than equal to, and I have to add with 3. Then it will be minus L P F plus G is less than equal to, now here UPF UPG UPF, and this minus will come now, minus LPF plus now UPG plus UPG minus LPG. But you know your UPF minus LPF and UPG minus LPG, that we have written somewhere. Yeah, UPF, not this one. Here we have written UPF minus LPF is less than epsilon and UPG minus LPG is less than epsilon. So if I replace epsilon, epsilon, I will have 2 epsilon. So let me take here epsilon by 2, epsilon by 2, right? So similarly here also it is epsilon by 2. In a previous part, it should be epsilon by 2, epsilon by 2 in a previous part. Okay, so I have done everywhere epsilon by 2, so need not have to worry. So now this is less than epsilon by 2 plus epsilon by 2, so will be epsilon. So what I got is up comma f plus g minus lp comma f plus g is less than epsilon. So this would imply up comma f plus g minus lp comma f plus g is less than epsilon. So we have shown that f plus g satisfies the Riemann criteria. So that would imply f plus g satisfies a Riemann criteria. I think I have forgot to mention here. Here I should write down we could write this epsilon by 2 by epsilon by 2. You can write because of which part we could write down this, maybe. Yeah, you should say because of 2 we have shown is less than epsilon. So I just suggest you, here I don't have a space, but then here you please write because of 2 we can write down this less than epsilon by 2, less than epsilon by 2. Okay, so f plus g satisfies the Riemann criteria. This would imply f plus g is R integrable. So we have shown with the help of Riemann criteria, we have shown that f plus g is R integrable. But if you go to the theorem, in a theorem it is mentioned that, let me come to the theorem part. Where is my theorem? This is not a part of theorem here. No. Here, yeah. So in a theorem it is said that show that further these two integral are same. Right. So this left hand side is a number, right hand side is a number. I have to show that two numbers are equal. Means I have to show that they are less than equal to each other. So f plus g is R integrable. If somebody says that f plus g is R integrable, that means integral a to b f plus g is same as upper integral f plus g, which is same as lower integral f plus g. That should be cleared. Right. So now I have to show that we have to prove that TPT, that means to prove that integral a to b f plus g is equal to integral a to b f plus integral a to b g. Right. So that is to prove that they are less than or equal to. That is to prove that a to b f plus g is greater than equal to integral a to b f plus integral a to b g, and integral a to b f plus g less than equal to integral a to b f plus integral a to b g. So they are greater than equal to, less than equal to. This is what I have to prove. Well, that's not difficult again. So since integral a to b f plus g is same as u of f plus g. This is the upper integral of f plus g. But what is this is same as uf plus g is nothing but basically infimum of all up comma f plus g such that P is any partition of closed interval a comma b. I'm not writing that statement, but it should be clear. So u f plus g is one of the lower bound of u p comma f plus g. So you can see that this is less than, this is uh, lower bound. So this is less than equal to u f plus g is less than equal to u p comma f plus g, right? But u p comma f plus g is strictly less than l p f plus g. Oh, wait, which anyway it will work out. That's not the difficult part, but I know that u f comma p comma f plus g, somewhere I have written uh, u p comma f plus g can be replaced by u p f plus u p g. So let me write down that, which is less than equal to u p f plus u p g. Which number I have used? That number 3. UPF plus G is same less than equal to UPF plus UPG because of 3. So from 3. Okay. But UPF can be replaced by, it is less than LPF plus epsilon by 2 plus LPG plus epsilon by 2. Now how I got this? Because if you go at a very initial, here we have shown that UPF minus LPF is less than epsilon by 2. So UPF is strictly less than epsilon by 2 plus LPF, and UPG is strictly less than epsilon by 2 plus LPG. So that is number 2. So from 2. So what I got is as follows. I got integral a to b f plus g is less than equal to, not less than equal to, in fact it is strictly less than LPF, या epsilon by 2 plus epsilon हो जाएगा. So LPF plus LPG plus epsilon, right? But your LPF is again less than equal to LF plus LG plus epsilon, because LF is a supremum and LG is again a supremum of LPF. So that would imply what I got is integral a to b f plus g is strictly less than LF. What is the integral value of LF? Because f is R integrable, so a to b f plus similarly g is R integrable, so LG is same as a to b g plus epsilon. Now if I drop out this epsilon, then this strictly less than become less than equal to, so a to b f plus g is less than equal to integral a to b f plus integral a to b g. Let me number this as star. So one part I have done. Now I have to do the other part. So other part is also simple because I started with u f plus g. Now next time I will start with l f plus g. Now consider integral a to b f plus g is same as l f plus g, that is lower integral. But lower integral is definitely less than equal to, I should say now, because it is supremum, so supremum is always greater than it, which is greater than equal to L P comma F plus G, which is further greater than equal to L P comma F plus L P comma G. How did I get this? Let me go again. Where? Here I have written. Slide number 18, I guess I have written. Yeah, LPF plus G is greater than equal to LPF plus LPG. So that is number 4 from 4. Now this is strictly greater than LPF is same as UPF minus epsilon by 2 plus UPG minus epsilon by 2. Because if you go slide number 12, 13, 14, you can see that here my LPF, if I subtract this with minus sign, then this is minus UPF plus LPF greater than minus epsilon by 2. So this LPF, when it will okay, it is greater than, so I need to replace with a smaller, yeah, this minus, so this minus become plus, so minus UPF when it will go that side, so it will be LPF is strictly greater than UPF minus epsilon by 2, and similarly downside also, so from 2 I should say. So what I got is as integral a to b f plus g is strictly greater than UPF plus UPG minus epsilon. Epsilon by 2 becomes an epsilon. Now but then UF and UPF, UF is a lower bound. So this is greater than or equal to UF plus LG minus epsilon. So what I got is as follows: integral a to b f plus g is strictly greater than, यहाँ पे एक बार भी strictly greater than है तो ये strictly रहेगा. So don't think that it will change it to the greater than or equal to minus epsilon. Right. So that means this term may epsilon is positive. So if I add plus epsilon in this, so maybe this is greater than or equal to. So this is a to b f plus g is greater than equal to, UF is same as integral a to b f, LG is same as integral a to b g, and this minus epsilon plus epsilon becomes 0. So I will have this. So let me call this as double star. So you can see from star is basically less than equal to, and double star is greater than equal to. So from star and double star, from star and double star, we have proved that integral a to b f plus g is same as integral a to b f plus integral a to b g. Right. So this completes the proof. We have shown that those both integral are same. First we have shown that f plus g is R integrable, and then we have shown that both integral are same. So maybe little lengthy, but it is not difficult. The calculations are straight. I don't feel it is difficult. So in upcoming lectures we will explore few more properties of R integrability. Thank you.